Okay, Senate Appropriations continues its work on the 2025 budget. And we are hearing testimony from the Department of Public Safety. We have quite a number of your staff here, Commissioner. And we see, I guess you're the only one joining remote. No, we have one more person, Tricia. Is that, I thought I saw someone else come on. Conti, who is the director of Vermont Forensic Laboratory. Obviously, you have a lot of people here to present, maybe more in a supportive role as opposed to being part of your official budget presentation. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes, ma'am. We wanted to make sure that we could answer any questions that come our way, so we brought the team.
All right. Well, you're well supported here. If you want to go around and introduce yourself, in terms of your role, I certainly know you many familiar faces here. And then who would you start out, Commissioner, or are you delegating?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to start off and then I'll have my folks introduce themselves. And then Rick Hallenbeck will be your cruise director today. So with that, Madam Chair, thank you. My name is Jennifer Morris and I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety. I don't see Deputy Commissioner Dan Batesy quite yet, although we did tell him 1:45 and I know he is presenting at a conference, so I'm not sure if he's going to jump on or not. And we also have with us Dr. Tricia Conti, who is the director of the Vermont Forensic Lab. And I see that Eric Forand is in the waiting room, so if somebody can let him in, that would be great. Eric is the director of Vermont Emergency Management, which, as you know, we've all been very busy in various ways. And then I'm going to turn this over to Rick to introduce himself. And Rick, I can't see very well because of the lighting coming in from the windows. If you can sort of send it around for introductions, please.
Okay.
Sure. Madam Chair, for the record, Rick Hallenbeck, Director of Finance and Administration of Public Safety. Before I get into the presentation, I will start with
Yes, I'm Corey Chase. I'm the Director of the Radio Technology Services Division at the Public Safety.
And I'm Jeff Wallen. I'm the Director of the Vermont Crime Information Center with DPS.
Mike DeRosa, Executive Director, Division of Fire Safety.
You're a familiar face.
Matt Birmingham, I'm the Director of the State Police.
Another very familiar face. All right, thank you. So I gather then Rick is going to do the actual presentation of the budget. Is that so? We'll turn it over to you then.
Yes, thank you.
And we do have this document here.
That's great. I'd like to direct your attention to page 1 of 167. Just to give you an overview of the entire budget. There's an overall increase of 18.9% in all funds, but 79% of that overall increase is in federal funds. We have added significant federal funding in emergency management as a result of the July floods. Looking at state funds, there's a 5.79 increase in the general and transportation funds combined. Some other highlights, we have 12.5 million in one-time general funds for the Flood Resilient Communities Fund. Mental health crisis specialists, budgeting to the level to allow 2 positions from the designated agencies in each barracks. And then a new regional emergency management coordinator position to reduce the service area for each coordinator and allow for some better coordination and proactive outreach.
And those emergency management positions, the funding for that is?
That is 50% federal, 50% general.
So it's a match.
Correct. And I'll pause there for questions, and I'm not sure if the commissioner also, after questions, may want to chime in a little bit on the mental health crisis specialists.
But we've got a question first. Yes.
On the 12.5 for the flood resilient, and you just is that what you just answered? Is that's general fund, but it's matching federal funds, or is that just straight grants?
Yes, that's match for the FEMA funds. The FEMA, I don't know, Eric, is it public assistance or hazard mitigation?
Hazard mitigation. That is a match for hazard mitigation funds coming out of FEMA.
And that's always gone through public safety emergency management because it's a hazardous mitigation. I guess that's preparing for the next emergency.
Yes, we've, as long as I can remember, had the hazard mitigation program, which is a percentage of the public assistance funds in an actual disaster that's declared.
When you're talking about transportation funds, I thought that you're talking about the JTOC transfer, that stayed constant, is it?
Correct.
So
Correct.
when you're talking about an overall increase, I would think that is general fund as opposed to, any of it being an increase to the transfer itself.
Correct. The transportation funds are static at 20.25 million and have been for several budget cycles. We look at the percentage increase against both of those funds, because if you look at it in just general funds, it's higher. But since the transportation funds are static, we do need to increase the funds as the trooper salaries increase, because that's what it funds, as, you know, for just the cost of living and benefits.
Yeah, I understand that. There have been times when, in fact, the administration has proposed a change in that transfer, but, never been financially possible. Otherwise, it just creates a general fund, hole or demand, so, okay. And, all right, other questions about sort of the summary and the highlights? The pretty, basic budget. Now, you wanted to talk about the mental health.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
Appropriations. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I know this has come up in House Welfare, or Healthcare, excuse me, House Healthcare Committee. And I believe there's been a misunderstanding to some degree about what the embedded workers in the barracks do and what their qualifications are. We began this program knowing that we had been being asked for multiple biennium to do better with encounters with people experiencing mental impairment, to use less force, to find alternatives to meet people where they are, to get people help. And we have been moving in a really positive direction, and it is our goal to have 2 embedded workers per barracks. So that would be 20 positions. There was a discussion on the House side to keep the 12 positions that we already have people in and funds for, and draw back the other 8 into some theoretical pool of mental health workers back at the designated agencies. And we spent the day Tuesday down in the State House trying to talk to folks about this. And we just can't be clear enough that not growing the program that is working feels like a tremendous step back. We are meeting people in their moment of greatest crisis. That is when people call 911. And that does not diminish the need for qualified mental health professionals to staff 988 or to be on a mobile crisis team back at the designated agencies. It in no way diminishes the fact that that is a real need. But the reality is that the people who choose to be embedded in a police agency are not necessarily going to choose to have a job back at a designated agency. It's a very distinct position, which you work very closely with law enforcement and ride with law enforcement. And so it's not a social worker is a social worker is a social worker. This is a very specific type of mental health worker. And most importantly, our workers are not licensed. And so the thought coming out of House Healthcare was that if they drew those 8 positions back into the designated agencies, they could get some federal matching funds for those positions. But I believe that you can only get that if they are licensed mental health professionals, and ours are not. So I think there was a bit of a misunderstanding, and it all happened before we really were able to weigh in on it. And we just wanted to point out how successful we feel this program has been, how efficacious it is, and that we are really leaning into this work and hope to have 22 workers per barracks.
So Senator Lyons.
So is this, Commissioner, is this secretary? I need to get that wrong.
Your
So-
promotion.
Yeah, did I just promote you?
You did, no, you just, yes, you
All right,
promoted
well,
me.
And then Senator Sears has got his hand up.
Okay, the question is, is this being acted on in a bill that's coming to us from the House Healthcare folks? Are they doing something in the bill that is going to change your program?
Probably they're making a recommendation to the Appropriations Committee on.
Okay, so it's
government
appropriation.
Proposal, which, Senator Sears has got his hand up. Actually, we're quite familiar with the genesis of that, because it happened right here in this committee, to put it bluntly.
Okay.
It didn't come out of the House, and it was back when Senator Ash was here. And, we started out, and actually, at that point, we said, carve it out of your own budget. We think that in fact, this is a more appropriate response to these situations than a law enforcement response for all the reasons that you've outlined. And then you hired Morning Fox, who came out of Deputy Commissioner of Mental Health. And so I think the question seems to be here is allowing two designated agencies, the people work for the DAs, but are embedded with your barracks. And the advantage of that is they have the clinical and the other supervision that would come with being in an agency with a greater expertise in how to respond to mental health crises or emergencies. So I think and Senator Sears would have been part of that discussion as well. And so we envisioned, and this wasn't new ground, this is certainly, we were hearing from the sheriffs, for example, the number of call outs that like as many as 75% of them were really more mental health crises and intervention than maybe criminal activity. So that just for people to know, and that might have been before you became commissioner, that's the genesis of the embedded workers was something that this committee created and endorsed, and it's been very helpful to get the feedback, our understanding, and I think I don't know if a report came out, but Morning Fox did do a report, I remember at least a year ago, that outlined how efficacious this response and these workers were. So I'm gonna start over again, and then I see Senator Sears. So we'll let the Colonel, and then we can ask you a question, Dick.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator. The Morning Fox has updated that report, so there is a new report available that we can get to the committee for 2023.
That would be great.
And I can't overstate what the commissioner said. These are embedded mental health crisis workers from the designated agencies. They're not employees of the state police. And that partnership with them has been instrumental in our ability to respond to mental health calls for service, because they are trained to manage those incidents as we are not. The reason we're looking to double it is because we don't have any available on the night shift, and there are as many of those calls, if not more, at night. So we have to expand that service to cover the entire block, and it's incredibly important.
Okay, Senator Sears.
Just briefly, the Senate Judiciary Committee will be looking at the budgets of everybody in the criminal justice system, including the Department of Public Safety, sometime the week of the 19th of March. So I would hope that you would have some information for us on both the 20 positions, the 12 that you now have, as well as the 8 new ones that you're planning. And a memo might be helpful to the committee on why you think it, and I tend to agree that it's a different type of worker. Was what was originally intended when it started, and I always thought it was too small. So I'm encouraged that you're planning to increase the number of embedded workers. I think many of the incidents that we see with both local and state police and sheriffs can be de-escalated by someone who's more well-trained in these fields, and also get the person the help they need without using the jails or whatever else. So I think it's a win-win, and
No, I'm
fully
I'm
supportive.
thinking, Dick, there were limitations on the Medicaid because you have to bill by, and you have to have a Medicaid eligible individual. This is not kind of the same kind of clinical billing through Medicaid. On the other hand, I don't know whether we have any latitude, but it seems to me this might be an MCO investment. We should explore that, because I do think that there are, obviously, significant healthcare and emotional health benefits. So I know that there's always a desire to match Medicaid dollars, but in these cases, you're not gonna ask someone in crisis, are you a Medicaid beneficiary? And nor would we have that kind of billing, so there are limitations to that, but maybe we could look at whether that could qualify under our waiver as an MCO investment. It just triggered a thought. So
Yeah,
any
well,
comments you have?
anything on that line, but there's also a huge benefit to the law enforcement officer who's with the mental health professional.
Sure.
That can't be understated, and that's where I'm wondering, obviously we're all looking for ways to save money and match and generate
Well, it's
any
not- it's-
other funds.
it's obviously nice to save money, but it's also important to have the most appropriate response to the situation. And sometimes trained law enforcement professionals, that skill is so precious. Be able to have additional resources so it can be dealt with in the most appropriate way. So
I'm curious about a lot of these not high profile crimes, but high profile individuals with frequent visits with law enforcement. I mean, obviously the outlier was the 1,600 visits that you wrote to me about the other day,
Yes,
Well,
sir.
which is part of our news. But I think there's a lot to be said for historically dealing with those individuals more as what is the problem and how can we solve the problem rather than just reacting to the criminal activity. I don't know the individual. I'm sure we've tried, but at any rate, those are the ones that stand out to the public and to all of us wondering what happened. And there was a case in Reno, Nevada. His name was $1 Million Murray. And Murray was costing the city of Reno about $1 million a year in trying to deal with him. And finally, they put mental health and wraparound services with him, and it cost him about $30,000.
Any other comments? Otherwise, I'm going to keep going because
I
under my committee here, by 2:15, I'm not going to have a quorum, so I need to keep going.
Yes, ma'am. We will get off this topic. Please know that we are available to provide whatever you need to any committee, and we're very keen on this topic. And Rick, keep going.
These are really very, very good. I mean, it's sort of graphically and succinctly, really to give us a sense of your initiatives and exactly how the public is benefiting, of where your resources have been devoted. So we'll let you keep going.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, as you mentioned, from page 2 to 7, there's some great information on our operations. I'm going to skip down to page 17 of 167.
We only have 27 pages.
Page 17, then. You go with that. Which brings us to the ups and downs form. And I don't plan to go line by line.
No, we don't want you to.
Don't want me to. So.
Yeah, I see there's one here, $100 up for something. Other books and periodicals.
Right.
Oh, good.
Things like that. And,
Yeah.
and in fact, I'll go past the salary wages in this first one, and all the way down the middle of the page. Account number 504599, other employee benefits, just to explain that down, that was a placeholder for a position that was appropriated in 23. And it's now included in salary, so it's down here and up in the salaries and benefits lines.
And your work,
Go ahead.
the workers' comp would include all the foreign officers.
This is the administration appropriation.
It's just the-
We'll get the state police, it's the very next appropriation, and that would be, highlighted there.
If you wanna go to,
Oh, I see where
state
it's,
police.
I see where it's.
Sure, there's not really anything else that's significant.
No, they're the usual salaries, benefits, internal service charges, we got that.
So that brings us to page 18 of 167. This is a little bit busy.
Oh, your vacancy savings there, 3.7 million.
Right, that represents our current level of vacancies. The reduction here does offset some increases in a few other line items such as.
Like overtime. We just finished your budget adjustment.
Correct.
We're aware of the overtime.
Yeah, so no surprise there. Also shift differential, and there's a variety of operating line items that we needed to increase to right size.
Well, how is recruitment going, in terms of, getting some of those vacancies filled?
Not great,
So,
not great. We're doing everything in our power. To recruit more people, but we had a positive class last year, at the end of last year, 14. Our normal attrition is about 30 a year. We have 2 classes a year at the police academy, so we need about 15 in each class. And for the last 4 years, we've had between 5 and 8.
oh,
So we've had a net loss of troopers since 2019.
there are no other law enforcement from other states who would love to come and work for you.
They're not rushing to come here, but we're faced with the same challenges that everybody is faced with in Vermont. Workforce challenges, housing challenges, all the stuff you hear about all the time. And then we have the law enforcement challenge on top of that. It's just not a profession
And then
people
you've
are.
been hit with a number of homicides that.
Yeah, we're very busy, but it's just not a profession people want to get into anymore. So we're just not seeing qualified people applying. Our applications have dropped almost 80% since 2001. So we have to turn it around. We're reorganizing our sworn resources as much as we can. We're civilianizing a lot of operations at the state police to people who are not sworn law enforcement officers, which is a good thing and should happen anyway. We only have 6 in the police academy right now, so that's going to hurt us. And our projections are not good. They're in the 60s by the end of the year. 60 vacancies for sworn at 328. So we're doing everything in our power to recruit everywhere through social media. We've hired a civilian recruiter who's done a lot of digital content for us. Colleges, universities, military health processing centers, you name it. We're hitting everything we can. It's just a challenge.
So is that 18% about vacancy rate?
We're at around 16% full for sworn. We have a functional vacancy rate of about 25% because we have a lot of people on military leave, MLA. The standard workforce shortage issues, workers' comp. So we have a functional rate of about 25% vacancies.
Have you talked to corrections? Because I think they've got from 25 down to 16.
30.
Well, that was, yeah, we're changing their hours, work hours.
Yeah, I don't know, that was, yeah, they were doing it, was it
Change.
board,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 12-hour.
Oh, right.
Right, we are not.
Yeah, you can't really.
We can't do that. We don't have we couldn't do it. I'll just say that. We looked at it. We can't do it. We don't have enough troopers to do 12-hour shifts. So we're not a 24-hour agency. We're covered till 2 in the morning about, and we're on call between 2 and 7 or 8, depending on what barracks it is. Which saves the state a lot of money, but it also is a burden because it's all on overtime and you shift differential and all the other things you have to pay for. But as a result of our vacancies being high, we do have a lot of vacancy savings, but we are also burning a lot of overtime. Because we're doing more work with less people, and that just is an equal correlation to why the overtime is so high. And then, of course, we've had a lot of homicides recently, and sadly, that we've been working and a tremendous number of resources go into those investigations. And they're usually at night or on the weekend and never paid overtime. So it's we can't control when they happen, but we devote the same number of resources to each one because they're important.
so that's a real challenge, isn't it? Thank you, Senator Weston, have a good trip.
Thank you.
Hope they'll let you in. Not have a
I would
call.
let me in.
Other questions about public safety?
One other comment on this page is that if you look at the salary wages along with the benefits, that would seem like big numbers, is offset by close to the bottom of the page, 504599 other employee benefits. Because that was the placeholder we used last year for the new trooper contract. A little bit late to get the actual line item, correct line item in the budget. 2 lines down from that is where we have the cost of the mental health professionals from the designated agencies. This is not all an increase. The 2.340 also includes the previous funding of 600,000, but that funding is on the next page as a down. The bottom of the next page is a $600,000 down. So it's truly a 1.7 million car. Any questions on page? Oh, sorry, Madam Chair.
No, I don't think so. I think,
So I can move to page 19 then, and I will just highlight a few increases here. Well, first a decrease, 200,000 at the very top of the page, 512300 repair and maintenance motor vehicles. That's just truing up where we're paying. There's a corresponding increase in
I hope
520,100.
you're letting your fleet, well, you have fewer drivers, so maybe the fleet costs are positively impacted. I'm assuming your fleet is in fairly good shape. Remember the days of Colonel
Yes.
Baker when he could only fill his gas tank half full?
Our fleet, and thanks to this committee, our fleet has, and Senator Mazza, who was helpful too on the transportation, because those transportation funding, our fleet is doing well. We have every 4 years it turns over, which is about when it hits mileage that it becomes, cost prohibitive to keep the cars on the road because of maintenance costs. So it has balanced itself out. There was an increase with last year, Rick, in the fleet money, or is it this year?
Yeah, or it was last year, we increased it a little over 700,000 in general funds.
Only because vehicle costs are out, I mean, they're outrageous now. So these cruisers are becoming so expensive to update. So thank you for that for last year, because it's helped sustain the fleet and keep maintenance costs down. That's the biggest thing.
So what you do with dry cleaning?
Although uniform.
Just that
No, it's down 70,000
it is down, that's just adjusting to what we.
because you got fewer uniforms to clean.
Fewer people wearing them.
No. All right, I'm gonna keep going here because I don't want, we gotta finish up before Senator Lyons has to leave.
Okay. The next big number is gasoline.
Yeah.
520110. And looked at that increase, and that is based on miles driven. There may be a cost factor as well, but 601,000 more miles than the previous year were driven. So that's where that true up comes from.
Wonder what?
A lot of it's overtime shifts. We were having to cover shifts with overtime, and troopers from one barracks will have to go to another barracks to cover the shift.
Ammunition is up, that's a cost increase, not buying anymore, the 520501, 86,000 up. Couple lines down from that, 52059, fire protection and safety, that's the new taser contract, it's up for renewal, and that's a little more expensive. That's 6 lines down from that, 522290, software storage. We recently completed the evidence room camera project, and that is for the annual storage fees.
The evidence room camera project is just a 24-hour day camera on the evidence room.
Yes, yes. In response to the incident we had, where Trooper was taking property, we have changed all of our policies. We've added cameras that are 24/7 recording of the access to all of our property and evidence rooms. We changed our access policies and we created storage facilities for property separate from evidence in response to that incident.
Great, thank you.
And that is everything I wanted to highlight on page 19.
We're gonna have to keep, you've got a lot more pages here than we've got time, I'm
So
sorry.
page 20 gets us to criminal justice services. There's only one thing I want to highlight on this, which is about midway down to page 507600, other contract and third party services. So this 312,000 up is for our PSAP console maintenance in the dispatch centers. This was previously funded out of the indirect cost rate in administration. That was used as a funding source. We did have some funding at the early days of our indirect rate when we first started using it, but it was really a one-time balance. And so now that needs to be somewhere in our general fund base.
312 on, yeah, general fund. Okay,
Any questions on page 20?
no, I don't see any. That sun is like being on a Caribbean beach, but we're not.
It is nice. Page 21,
No, it's really not too much here, just going down.
yeah,
through it.
nothing.
Mostly salaries, health insurance, et cetera.
I didn't have anything flagged to highlight on this page, so moving to page 22, still in emergency management, I did want to highlight about midway down the page, 550500. And the one right above it, actually, those are in the federal column, the large increases due to the July flooding event. These are grants to municipalities, et cetera, that had damage for the flood.
That part of 12.5.
The $12.5 million is in a one-time fund.
Yeah.
I will show you that at the end. I'm hoping she's still.
Okay, we're good.
Any questions on this page?
No. It's all, then we're moving into fire safety.
Yes, next, fire safety. I didn't have anything flagged on page 22 for fire safety. On page 23, I just wanted to point out that we're adding some general fund operating line items for the rental housing inspectors. Did not have any operating line items budgeted for that program as it stood up.
So on page 23. Am I moving ahead too fast?
Yeah, I'm on
Down
20.
the bottom, it's 150 for vehicles, so that's with fire safety, so that's Mike's shop that you're getting some new vehicles.
Correct.
That 522600 is in the federal fund column.
Yeah,
That is for the urban search and rescue team.
Now, we did have a budget request for with water,
Yes.
but that would be different, obviously, than fire safety.
This would do the urban search and rescue team. One of the main things they do is with water rescue. So it's kind of one of the same. Mike could elaborate a little bit better than I.
We had a request for additional funding and
Right. Fire, is this different than what they,
We don't have anything proposed in our.
this is
budget.
just a vehicle, no?
Correct.
and this,
Madam Chair, you're correct that you probably do have a request for funding. It is not part of the governor's recommend, and therefore we will not be advocating for it in this meeting.
okay.
But you're aware of it.
We're definitely aware of it.
All right. Well, we know who you work for.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I didn't have anything else on page
No.
23 unless there's questions.
No, I think not, and then now we're on to
Page 24, which is the Vermont Forensic Labs.
and we have the director here, waiting patiently.
Yes, joined us virtually. Around the middle of the page, 507600, you'll see a down of $45,000 in general funds. We were able to over time shift some expenses to apply for them grants and shift them over to grant
I
programs.
see, here, federal, 147,000, is that's
So some-
federal, that's a grant then.
Correct. So some of that comes from the general fund. The pressure is now on the grant program. And that 147,000, I do have some notes on that. That's testing, calibration services, instrument maintenance, and some other very technical lab terms.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then in line with that, we have also some decreases in operating, just truing up some line items.
Is your lab fully staffed?
I believe we have one vacancy. I don't know if that is.
I was wondering in terms of workload, and I mean, obviously that's a very special work, so I was wondering in terms of your staffing or whether it was difficult to attract the candidates or applicants with the expertise that you would require. So, Dr. Connie, do you have a comment on that?
I'll just say that, as Rick mentioned, we do currently have one vacancy, which has not yet been posted. It's due to a death of one of our employees last November that we've not really mentally prepared to hire for. But historically speaking, it's been relatively okay hiring, depending on what type of analytical position we're hiring for. There are a couple of disciplines that are a little trickier than others, but we've had some success getting recent college graduates in that have been very successful in the lab. So while a bit challenging, it's not something that we've really struggled with.
Oh, that's good news. Other people have comments that staff that might want to add anything to that you would like us to know? When we're looking at the budget, there might be some other issues associated with public safety, but right now we're just focused on your budget request for 25. Well, thank you for all.
We are available anytime for your comments. My cell phone number is at the bottom. Don't call it in the next 5 days, but after that, you can call me anytime.
Oh, well, I hope you're doing something fun.
I am.
Good. Well, the chances are next week we won't be calling because I might be calling.
Yeah,
But
if you do, you're gonna be pretty long.
yeah, it's gonna be a long. All right, unless we have further comments about your budget request, I think straightforward. Obviously, it's
Madam Chair,
there's not a lot of fat in it, and just the initiative to, which are really like extenders for law, your sworn officers. So it's another way of trying to get personnel that can help meet that workload. That's a good step forward. Yes, do you have another comment?
Madam Chair, do you want me to go over the slide that updates ARPA and the one-time appropriations? There's a separate 2-page handout on that.
You know, I don't think so, not today. We can take a look at it. What we do is like the House does. And Senator Sears has the public safety budget, and he'll be looking at it in greater detail than the full committee will. And then if anybody has any questions, we can either direct them to you with the commissioner and or if there's something specific where we want more testimony, we can schedule you to come back in.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
So we do
Thank
have
you.
a sheet here.
Thanks, Rick. Great job as usual.
And have a wonderful week off.
Yes. So, and to you as well. Thank you for your hard work all session. We're very grateful.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Are we off?
Yes, we are.
No.
We're adjourned, so